And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. Today we're talking about a coronal mass ejection, the large filament in the southeast limb of the local yellow dwarf, TSUNAMI. And if you follow us on Facebook or you're a patron, you would already know that. Also, I think we posted something about that on Twitter last night. And as typically would be associated with tsunamis, large earthquakes, nearly an 8 magnitude. First thing we're doing is looking at the sun. This is 94 angstroms, one of the emission spectral states of ionized iron. And you can see down here there was a small solar flare in the B-class range just before the coronal mass ejection kicked off. And indeed, about an hour and 20 minutes before the earthquake happened, that coronal mass ejection happened, that solar flare happening right at noontime yesterday. So 12 o'clock universal time is when that solar flare happened. And we'll show you some close-ups. Next thing we'll do is take a look at stereo A's view here at Lagrangian point 5. And here's the view from stereo A. And we brought up the difference image this time. It's a little bit tough to see. You can see out here on the right side, there's some coronal mass ejection here, sort of in the Earth-facing vicinity, not really Earth-directed. There were also coronal mass ejections on the opposite side of the sun from the Earth. So you can see the Earth would be out on your right side here if you're a new viewer. And again, that's Lagrange point 5. That's where it's located as it trails the Earth, orbitally speaking. And you can see some ejecta here on the LASCO C3. Most of it will be out here on the eastern side, an indication that it will miss the Earth to the east. And the LASCO C3 is located actually at Lagrange point 1, part of the SOHO spacecraft. Here's another image of the sun here. It's the colorized magnetogram N171 angstroms composite. And some of that filament does appear to still be on the sun. We've got some missing data at the end of the run here. And we'll show you some HelioViewer movies real quick. Here is 304 angstroms along with 171 angstroms. You're looking at ionized helium, that's 304 angstroms, and 171 angstroms, that's ionized iron. Great composite view there on HelioViewer, which does include yesterday's coronal mass ejection. Timestamps are down there in the lower left. And here's a close-up of that area. And that is not a sunspot, by the way. It's just an active region, an area of high magnetic organization. You see that solar flare happens just about the same time as the coronal mass ejection. And we'll show you one more view. We'll save the rest of our HelioViewer custom videos for the end. Here's 304 angstroms. Spectacular view of that filament, which is anchored way up here and then wrapping all the way around the limb of the sun. It's probably a dozen Earths diameters in length. And we'll save the rest of our great HelioViewer movies for the end of the video. Next, we'll look at some more data here, such as where stuff is in the solar system. And it looks like it's new moon. Happy new moon, folks. And there's where we expect things to be in a week. That's on theplanetstoday.com, by the way, if you want to show people a planetary diagram. Now I'm on in-the-sky.org to show you a star chart. And today's ecliptic goes through Scorpius and Libra and Virgo and Leo and Gemini. That's the yellow line, the ecliptic. If you want to make your own star chart, put in your location and so on, and you'll be able to create one at in-the-sky.org. The radio flux has popped right back up to 74, where it was just before it dropped all the way down to 70. And the 10.7 centimeter radio flux is a measurement of the radio output of the outer solar corona. There's the 1 year context of that. It's this top black line here. That's the 10.7 centimeter radio flux. You can find that graph at solon.info/solar. And there's the sunspot number through cycle 24 and into cycle 25, and the radio flux. And you can see how proportional those two data sets are in terms of solar activity. Sunspot number being the primary measurement of solar activity, 10.7 centimeter radio flux being quite directly proportional to that. Let's check out earthquakes over the past 24 before we get to the tsunamis. Let's talk volcanoes before we get to earthquakes and talk about things like tsunamis. So Mount Abiko's been erupting. It's producing a 5,000-foot ash plume. Sakurajima, an 8,000-foot ash plume over the Isle of Kyushu, Japan. Mount Raung still erupting, and I think that's an uptick from yesterday. As it explodes, it's producing an 18,000-foot plume of volcanic ash. Please don't attempt to hang glide through the ash plume over the caldera. There could be a phoenix in there. Next, Popocatépetl, down in Mexico, exploding as well. 21,000-foot ash plume above it. Sangay exploding in Ecuador, as well as Revenador in the same country. 21,000 and 14,000-foot plumes of ash above those two volcanoes, respectively. Again, that's Sangay and Revenador. And Sabancaya down in Peru, sporadic emissions are a reminder not to attempt any gymnastic techniques over the caldera. Do not attempt a back or front handspring or the triple Lindy over the caldera. So we saw a 7.7 magnitude earthquake here. It was downgraded from a 7.9 north of New Zealand here. So sort of in between Fiji and New Caledonia. That large quake in that ocean rift zone right there, right in that rift. And it indeed did generate some tsunamis. So there were the reports last night. And the largest tsunami was 2.6 feet with a periodicity of 4 minutes. And that showed up at Lenakelvu at 1441. So about an hour and 20 minutes after the initial earthquake, we started to see tsunami reports. Not sure the total list there, but if you want to go read about it, head to tsunami.gov. It's got the whole list of warnings and so on. So we saw 7.9 downgraded to a 7.7. That was at 1320. And then another one about 8 hours later at 2124 yesterday. That was a 6.7. Also near the Loyalty Islands. So here's the last 24 of earthquakes. And we'll just go up the list here. Finally, a major earthquake happening. And I haven't heard any reports of major destruction. That's a good thing. So it looks like some foreshocks here. We saw a 6.0 and a 5.7 and a 6.2 and a 6.1, and then that 7.7 downgraded from a 7.9. And then lots of aftershocks all in that same area. Then a deep quake by Fiji. Actually, two deep quakes. One 4.8 at 576 kilometers, and then a 4.6 only about 20 minutes later at 545 kilometers. So two mid 4 magnitude range quakes. Then more aftershocks at the Loyalty Islands. Then a 6.4 aftershock at the Loyalty Islands. That was downgraded from a 6.7. And you can see those numbers on tsunami.gov as well. Then a deep quake in Central America, as well as a deep quake in Western South America. Those happening only 5 minutes apart, but like 2,000 miles apart. They were at 148 and 208 kilometers depth in Nicaragua and Argentina. So significant earthquake report there. Small deep quake in Alaska. And don't be surprised to see the aftershocks continuing in that area near the Loyalty Islands. Shallow quake at Hawaii at 100 meters above sea level. It was only a mid-2 grade magnitude. And I would like to invite all of our viewers to smAsho.com/forum. Now, we are Alt Tech, and you may not be familiar with Alt Tech if you're watching on YouTube. Who knows? Maybe you're just a mainstream noob who knows nothing about the internet. We are Alt Tech. We will not censor you. You can post whatever you want on our forums. Just don't spam and don't do anything illegal. And maybe don't make a fool of yourself because you could be berated online. One of the benefits of our forum is that you can use it to host links and images. So for example, to post our memes, we've made and thanks smAsh staff for making this forum, our content. And in that content are a bunch of memes. Now, I've been making memes for about 5 years because I have something to say about certain things. And so, since COVIDiots Online are able to process memes, sometimes the visual images sink into their brain. We've got content there. And what you can do is you can upload your own images and then you'll have a link. You can just copy link, you can copy image address, and then you can paste this on other sites. It'll be remotely hosted by our site. For example, the Dimension of the Year of 2020, hell. Anyway, feel free to post whatever you like at smAsho.com/forum. Again, we will not censor you because we are Alt Tech. Now, you can find links to that as well as all of our social media at our homepage, smAshomash.com. Smashomash.org will redirect you. And today's featured product is the Smash of Hazard. So the Smash of Hazard, it features a very high-resolution image of the sun. That was just 2 days ago on February 9th. A high-res image from the SDO and 304 angstroms, as well as our Smash of Hazard logo and our website. 68 products there, all kinds of shirts and sweatshirts, and you can even get a mini skirt with the Smash of Hazard on it. There's the mini skirt. Also stickers, phone cases, etc. If you'd like to emblazon some products with our website and other graphic design, pick up some products at the Redbubble shop, and you can link to all of that. That's the smAsho merch link on the homepage. Now, today's Smash stream was brought to you through the streaming platform of twitch.tv. So it's a fantastic streaming platform. We use it on the regs thanks to our followers over there at Twitch. Did you see our supplemental video? If you're watching on Twitch or BitChute, you may not have seen this one. It's a YouTube exclusive. We did some close-up imagery of this. We did some close-up imagery of this filament, the one that erupted yesterday around noon. Here's a clip. And make sure you play the volume on this one. We put some cool background music in here. And you can blast this one. So some close-ups of that filament along with the Earth scale and what might have been named a sunspot, but for some reason wasn't. So check that out. That would be in our Daily Space Weather videos playlist. So please press like and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't. If you enjoy the content, press share on your social media. I don't know what the heck I pressed. Press share on your social media. Tell your friends, foes, science noobs, and science pros about the channel, as we need your help to get the videos out there. We need views and subscribers. So please assist us there, as the algorithms are less than friendly to our channel. We're also on BitChute, and there are some exclusive videos there, such as this one made 10 months ago about hydroxychloroquine. And let's do a cosmology segment real quick. We're going to pick a random object at the Neil Gorell Swift Bat X-ray Observatory. If you're wondering what BAT stands for, it's Burst Alert Telescope, as there are over 1,000 objects which are nearly constantly monitored. So we'll pick a random object here between 1 and 1031 with our quantum dice throw. And today's number is 644. So sort of right in the middle of the list there. Let's see what 644 brings. It's another quasar. So this is a BL Lacertae object. And again, Lacertae objects are objects that have a full spectrum of electromagnetic radiation. You can see this one has a little bit of variability here. As you can see, it went into a quiescent state there in 2010, right there where my pointer is. And then it ramped up a little bit in X-rays. That's the historic graph. There's the 30-day graph. And I think the Neil Gorell Swift Bat X-ray Observatory is missing some data here about 2 weeks ago. So, but in any case, it's a pretty consistent X-ray source, that quasar. Let's go take a look at it visually. It'll probably look like a single point of light, almost like a star, but indeed it is a galaxy. So there it is on Aladdin Light. And let's take a look at it on the 2MASS. This is infrared light. And let's see if we can see it on the Chandra, which often shows us more detail and has been featured many times on our thumbnails. Not showing up on the Chandra or the XMM Newton. So let's just take another image here. How about Pan-STARRS? There's the image from Pan-STARRS, the optical image of quasar, also known as 6C172704 plus 501607. A very catchy name. That's today's cosmic object. And again, BL Lacertae objects are objects that are a full spectrum type of quasar. And again, that's number 644 at the Neil Gorell Swift Bat X-ray Observatory, quasar B1727 plus 502. And that's today's cosmology segment. Let's get back into the daily space weather data right after I check the life of the stream, and everything looks copacetic. So there you can see that X-ray flare that happened right at 12 noon. Right at 12 noon was the peak flux of that solar X-ray flare, some high-energy photons being emitted from that active region just before the coronal mass ejection ejected. And indeed, it is related. Just keep in mind, folks, you don't need solar flares to see coronal mass ejections. The proton flux remains flatlined here. We haven't seen any strikes on the GOES 16 for proton flux. No surprise there. No coronal mass ejections have been in the Earth-facing zone. And allow me to vanish and show the real-time solar wind, which has ramped up here over the past 12 hours. It got just over 10 protons per cubic centimeter, now back down to about 8. We also saw the phi angle recently shift, as well as the BTBZ. And that top pane, by the way, that's magnetism. So this BTBZ right now, the BT is 5, and the BZ is 2. So you've got North Pole-oriented magnetism with a total field of 5 right there. So you've got a north BZ, positive 2, total field of 5, phi angle of 248 degrees. That is the angle of the incoming plasma. Solar wind density just over 8 protons per cubic centimeter, and solar wind speed at low background levels here, 333 kilometers per second, which has the KP index at 2. And there's the last 3 days of global geomagnetism as measured by the KP index. Here's 4 hours of geospace magnetosphere movie. A perfect opportunity to take a nice sip of my cayenne cocoa infused coffee. Good times. And no. I'm back. And we'll let that play through as it refreshed in the middle of our feed. The dangers of streaming live. Now, we prefer a live streaming platform because it creates all kinds of situations that would not otherwise occur. I work well under pressure. Speaking of pressure, that's the magnetohydrodynamic pressure of the past 4 hours. It's a geospace magnetosphere movie. Here's another geospace magnetosphere movie coming a little closer to home. We're looking at geospace delta B, which would be changes in the Earth's B field. And I would note major perturbations here south of South America once again, despite the South Geomagnetic Pole being someplace over here. So you see these dense regions of change in the Earth's B field nowhere near the South Geomagnetic Pole during this polar excursion. Now, we've covered it on previous videos. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, perhaps consider doing so. We cover stuff like this daily. Here's the GOES magnetometer for the past 3 days. And that's the GOES 16. It measures the magnetism at the F ionosphere layer at about 300 kilometers of altitude. And you're seeing spiky readings here. There's quite a bit of plasma in between the Earth and the Sun right now, as there is a coronal hole wind stream on the way. And let's take a quick look at the hydrogen alpha. And the latest data comes from El Teide. And we'll just check and see if that filament is still going on. We've also got a filament up here in the northeast. You can see that, possibly an active region, maybe a sunspot rising. It's at a pretty high latitude. And it looks like that filament in the southeast is largely not there anymore. So whether it all ejected or whether it collapsed back onto the photosphere remains to be seen. Let's take a look at the heliospheric current sheet, something that is absolutely nothing like the, quote, galactic current sheet, end quote. Keep in mind, this data is 2 hours and 8 minutes old. The Earth is solidly in the South Pole current sheet there, shown in red. And we're expecting to see some pretty spiky data on the GOES 16 magnetometer as a result of some pretty direct potential field surface source lines there. And again, you can see those in red about to move into the Earth-facing zone. And I think that is a sunspot rising. You can probably see it at stereo A. We won't really worry about it. It's the daily space weather. Here's a line of sight field plot. Shows you the solar magnetogram and the sun's B field, shown in blue. And here's a coronal hole line of sight plot. You can see that large south-oriented coronal hole there in red, attached to the south solar pole. And here is the magnetic field plot of the solar corona. The sun's atmosphere is indeed a chaotic place. Lots of closed potential field surface source lines up there by the North Pole. You see all those pink loops up there? Those are closed potential field surface source lines. Otherwise, not a lot to comment on there. Here's a diagram of the atmosphere. And here's me vanishing once again. Again, that red F over there on the right side, that would be where the GOES 16 makes its measurements, the F ionosphere layer. Here's another diagram that shows the Van Allen belts, which are giant belts of electrons that encompass the Earth. Where do all those electrons come from, folks? Did you think that everything's electric? Well, guess what? It's not. Some things are electric. The planet's electric. Stars are electric on their surfaces. But guess what's not electric? The universe. Yeah, that's right, folks. The universe is not electric. Aspects of it are electric. That's why we have a term, electric. Otherwise, why would we need a term electric if everything was electric? It's not. Sorry. I know you may feel excited thinking that everything is electric and that it's sort of created some sort of wonderful knowledge, but everything's not electric. You ever hear of an insulator? Insulators aren't electric, are they? Next, we're looking at charging hazards as electrons can charge up satellites, and we don't see any charge ups. We see moderate levels here of electron flux over the past 3 days. There's the 3-day chart from the GOES 16. And there's the 1-year chart to put it in context, right in the middle of the range here. Nothing to write home about there. Here's a visualization of the total electron content. And if you tie this together with your location, if you see a bright blob over where you're located at that time, you would see GPS errors, most likely. Today, everything's pretty minor. And those orangish colors there, you get to about 36, you'd see GPS errors of quite a lot, maybe up to, I don't know, a mile, 800 miles. I've seen massive GPS errors over North America while doing bike rides, as I use a GPS to log my rides, not a speedometer. Next, looking at the electron forecast. Nothing to write home about there. I would tend to agree with that forecast. Keep in mind, we are going to have a coronal hole wind stream in about 3 days. The green boxes are the forecast, and the yellow diamonds are the observations. Next, looking at just the ionosphere layer. We show this daily as well, because we're interested in tying facts together with physics. Facts and physics equals actual mechanisms of how these things work. It's the ionosphere. The data is provided by Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology. Here's the latest image. Ionosphere looking normal to me. Leave a comment if it's abnormal to you. That's at 9:45 Universal Time. And next, I brought up the jet streams here. Now we're looking at the North Geographic Pole. And before I continue on, let me just check once again the life of the stream, and we are good. So here's the North Geomagnetic Pole, and look how incoherent the jet streams are. They're very broken up over here, tripled up over this part of the world, and very concentrated over here on this part of the world. And then there's a huge kink over here. Anyway, there are the jet streams of the West. Extremely chaotic jet stream flow continues. Here are the jet streams of the East. Extremely chaotic jet stream flow continues there, especially in the southern hemisphere. Next, looking at pressure cells, as high pressure continues to dominate the entire northern polar region. Look at all the high pressure up there. All that red, that's all high pressure. Powerful low pressures over the North Atlantic and North Pacific, as low pressure dominates the south polar region. We'll advance this till tomorrow. Here's where we expect pressure cells to be according to the GFS forecast at 12 noon tomorrow. And windy.com has a great mobile app too. You may want to download that. And now looking at lightningmaps.org, it looks like we have some terrestrial lightning over the U.S. Let's do a shout out. Hey, Meridian. There's thunder rolling in. Hey, Jackson, go outside and look to your east. There are some significant thunderstorms. Hey, Hattiesburg. There's thunder rolling in. Major thunderstorm. Go out and look west if you're in Hattiesburg. Baton Rouge, it's going to largely miss you, most likely. And we'll show you the Doppler radar momentarily. And that's the real-time lightning map on lightningmaps.org. I like to use it when I hear thunder. It could save your bacon. Don't fry your bacon with lightning, folks. So we got a massive ice storm here stretching all the way from Arkansas to West Virginia, as well as through central Texas. Some snow falling on me once again, as the Snowpocalypse 2021 continues. And COVIDiots are wearing 1, 2, 3, and 14 masks, which are still ineffective at preventing the transmission of viruses. Here's the cloud layer. And we're using the NASA GOES shortwave radiation at 3.9 nanometers to see clouds at nighttime when they're not visible in the daytime. Here's the water vapor. And you can see all that moisture is butting up against this dry mass of air down here over places like Georgia and South Carolina and the Gulf of Mexico, preventing it from moving south and causing it to continue on that east-northeasterly trajectory. It's an atmospheric river stretching all the way from Texas to Delaware. Again, there's the cloud layer. And there's the water vapor. It looks like there's going to be continued wintry mix here over those icy areas. Ouch. As temperatures are going to remain pretty similarly. But more moisture is headed into Tennessee as I make the video. So hey, thanks Smash Team for promoting us instead of fraud. Please tell your friends, foes, science noobs, and science pros about the content. Perhaps consider becoming a patron. Visit our links, pick up some merch, etc. Don't forget to press like and subscribe on YouTube, press the notification bell, and share, as again, we need your help to get the content out there. Algorithms are, shall we say, unfriendly. And we've got bonus features, so don't go anywhere. We've got to show you a colorized magnetogram and a solar intensity gram to see if we see any ombre. And indeed we don't. So here's the imagery. So no ombre there, no sunspots. There is an active region rising up here in the north. No ombre associated with that yet. Here's a colorized magnetogram. There's the area from which that solar flare and coronal mass ejection emanated. There's the magnetogram of that active region, and again, not active enough to produce any ombre. And we'll close things out with some more close-ups of the sun. Here's 171 angstroms in the southern hemisphere. Including the solar flare. We'll let that play through a second time before we zoom in further. I think we've got 3 more wavelengths for you here in the extreme close-up. Again, that solar flare peak flux was around 12 noon yesterday. So here's a close-up in 193 angstroms. Great view of that filament. Here's a close-up in 304 angstroms. Fantastic view. And you can see apparent relationship there between that active region and the filament, as if it pumped electrons into the filament or something like that. Or maybe it sucked electrons out of the filament. I think it pumped them in, though. And we won't go any deeper into that, as I don't want to wade through the weeds. So here's 171 angstroms. And we're going to close out on this. Anyway, thanks for tuning into the Daily Space Weather. Don't forget to visit our other playlists. We've got lots of other videos with other subject matters on the channel, whether you're viewing on YouTube especially, youtube.com/smashamash/playlists. There is lots of content there, so check it out. Also visit our links on our homepage, smashamash.com. We'll see you next time. Thanks again for tuning in. Remember, stare at the sun. Use the proper instruments like the SDO. When you're staring at the sun, don't drink, but if you do drink, don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. May that solar wind be at your back.